We had to wait quite a long time to get our hands on the game, but once Final Fantasy VII Remake was finally out, it earned widespread critical acclaim and was hailed as one of the best action RPGs of all time. However, Final Fantasy VII Remake only really scratched the surface of the original game's plot, and so fans are anxious to see what Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 will have to offer. That's still unclear, but it seems answers may come before the year is out. In celebration of Final Fantasy VII's 25th anniversary, Square Enix recently talked about its plans for the future. During a special anniversary event, Square Enix confirmed that the plan is to share more information on Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 at some point in 2022. What exactly this more information will entail remains to be seen. Perhaps it will come in the form of a trailer, or maybe it will simply consist of Square Enix providing some details on what fans can expect from the game. There are a lot of theories about where Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2's story will go, and just how far into the original FF7 narrative it will take players. The entirety of Final Fantasy VII Remake was set in Midgar, but it seems likely that Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 will have many more locations for players to visit. The jury is still out on whether or not Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 will retain the pace of Final Fantasy VII Remake, or if it will fall more in line with the original game. Final Fantasy VII Remake made some big changes to the story, working to better flesh out some of Final Fantasy VII's characters and adding new developments while still hitting all the familiar plot beats that fans expected to see. Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 could similarly add a lot of content to better flesh out the characters and story, but it could also pick things up a bit. While many Final Fantasy titles have only gotten one entry, Final Fantasy VII has gotten several in addition to films and various other media. It appears that Final Fantasy VII's releases won't be stopping anytime soon either, with Square Enix confirming there are more projects to come following the completion of what has already been announced. From spin-off games like Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus, to the feature-length film Advent Children, the Final Fantasy VII franchise has benefited from continued support and expansion over the last 25 years. This is largely in part due to the success of the original Final Fantasy VII, which struck mainstream appeal due to its more futuristic setting, iconic characters, and captivating story. Today, a whole new generation of gamers have taken their first steps into the world of Final Fantasy VII through its remake, a title that ambitiously retells and continues the story of that first game. The upcoming Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis looks to compile all of these stories into one neat package. In a message celebrating Final Fantasy VII's 25th anniversary, Square Enix confirms there are more projects coming down the pipe after Remake. The news comes from a post by the Final Fantasy VII Remake Twitter account that features briefings by Yoshinori Kaitase, the director of Final Fantasy VII, and Tetsuya Nomura, the creative director of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Both individuals make reference to the franchise's future in their respective messages, with Nomura specifically stating, "There will be even more new FFVII projects that started up after the remake coming in future too." Final Fantasy VII Remake launched in 2020 to critical acclaim. So far, there are only 2 Final Fantasy VII games confirmed to be in development. The first of which is Ever Crisis, the aforementioned mobile game that will attempt to gather the extended Final Fantasy VII compendium into a single, abbreviated title. And so that just leaves Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, a game that may have an even harder assignment to complete than Part 1, as this will likely cover the most open-world segments of the original Final Fantasy VII. This message from Kaitase and Nomura is good for Final Fantasy VII fans. The good side is that players don't have to worry about Final Fantasy VII's releases stopping with Remake Part 2 and Ever Crisis, as there are apparently still stories to be told. Unfortunately though, as Nomura mentions, these new projects started development at some point after Remake's production had already begun, meaning they are likely still a ways away from release. Since it is Final Fantasy VII's 25th anniversary though, maybe there will still be some surprises for this year. But if the game is revealed in 2022 as Square Enix hopes, then the wait for information on the game should be coming to an end sooner rather than later. Perhaps it will be showcased in an upcoming PlayStation event, or maybe it will be one of the featured games at Square Enix's E3 2022 presentation. Wednesday, February 2nd brought the latest episode of PlayStation's State of Play live stream. The broadcasted State of Play event often focuses on a single upcoming PlayStation game or produce, offering fans an in-depth look at a major release. The focus of Wednesday's episode was Gran Turismo 7, which releases for the PS4 and PS5 on March 4th. The stream extraordinarily showcased plenty of new gameplay footage and offered fans a look at some new features in the upcoming racing simulation game. The gameplay showcase opened with Gran Turismo 7 director Kazunori Yamauchi introducing the upcoming game. He goes on to say that GT7 not only marks the series' 25th anniversary, but that developer Polyphony Digital sees it as the most complete in the series so far. According to Yamauchi, his team developed Gran Turismo 7 to be a racing simulation that appeals to car experts and newcomers alike. While that's an ambitious goal, the shown gameplay gives some reasons to be on full pace day one. The latest Gran Turismo 7 showcased a series of clips as Yamauchi goes over Gran Turismo 7's various features. However, there was still plenty of gameplay to show off, including footage from both third-person cameras and the driver's viewpoint. The latter showed a few of the highly detailed car interiors, which are always appreciated by those who get into Gran Turismo's simulation aspect. The same fans will likely appreciate the developer's attention to detail regarding realistic weather. According to Yamauchi, the developers compiled vast amounts of meteorological data to accurately simulate weather patterns in each region. This is more than just a visual change. Factors like temperature, humidity, and precipitation will have a noticeable effect on a car's performance and handling. This actually blew my mind. The level of detail in this game is just unthinkable, and the weather and lighting, and the importance of the history of cars and car culture have been just beautifully engineered into Gran Turismo 7. We also got a brief look at some of Gran Turismo 7's alternate race modes, including drag racing and drift trials. Both have different requirements than racing a standard circuit, so players have to choose and tune their cars accordingly. Drag racing, for example, requires a higher emphasis on raw power and throttle control to overcome the standing start. The game also offers a variety of multiplayer modes and the ability for the player to create custom races. The latter allows the player to tweak everything, including the weather and AI behavior. As Sony's exclusive racing game franchise, Gran Turismo stands out often as being one of the more realistic titles available to racing game fans. Gran Turismo 7 appears to be keeping up with the realism, with improved weather effects, graphics, and more expansive features. As the first State of Play event of 2022, Sony allowed Gran Turismo 7 to take center stage, highlighting the final reveals for fans before the upcoming release. Alongside a trailer showing off stunning new Gran Turismo 7 gameplay, an impressive figure was revealed during the stream. According to Sony, over 400 cars will be making their way to Gran Turismo 7. This comes alongside the news that new cars will be implemented with future updates, meaning that players will have ample choice when picking out what car they want to race in. There's plenty of space to use these cars too, with 34 locations and 90 layouts for them, including real-world locations and fantasy tracks. This statistic of over 400 cars helps Sony's push to make Gran Turismo 7 the biggest game in the series so far. On top of the sheer amount of cars, there's also an overhaul to the way that players will be able to customize their vehicles in Gran Turismo 7, meaning that there will be even more variations on the large amount of vehicles already in the game. All in all, this adds up to a nearly infinite amount of ways that players will be able to race in GT7. From liveries to aerodynamic parts, cars and their customization options were explained in detail during the State of Play stream by director Kazunori Yamauchi. Dozens of the vehicles that will be available in GT7 were confirmed previously by the marketing of Polyphony Digital and famous car manufacturers such as Ferrari, McLaren, Lamborghini, Alfa Romeo and more. Though these cars were officially confirmed in the State of Play stream, along with the number of cars, these details had been leaked previously by a Japanese pamphlet earlier in January 2022. More tracks, cars and locations will be added as DLC content after launch. While driving is the biggest focal point of Gran Turismo 7, Polyphony wants to make sure players look good while doing it. A point of contention in the last entry, GT Sport, was that the customization options felt a bit reined in. GT7 is going in the opposite direction and giving players a nearly infinite number of choices across different categories. The extensive number of modifications available in the game can make any car into a player's perfect dream car in GT7. The video scrolls through some area options quickly, but just focusing on what's available for high spoiler options and spoiler endplate shapes is a remarkable level of detail and research. Certain cars will also have a wide body option, then those wide body modifications will have their own unique styles. Players will be able to even add roll cages to their cars for that true racing series feel. The translator for Gran Turismo 7 director Kazunori Yamauchi rattles off the stunning number of customizable appearance options: 650 aerodynamic parts, 130 styles of rims, 1,200 paint colors is a daunting amount of endless possibilities. Thinking critically at the application of these options, it's unlikely that all 400 cars in GT7 will be privy to getting fitted for any and all types of wheels. However, the color options can be. Looking at the color options as they quickly scroll through the countless shades of reds, blues, and greens, there are manufacturers attached to a specific shade. Polyphony Digital has done an impressive amount of legwork to get such specific colors iconic to brands like Aston Martin's specific shades of green and Ferrari's iconic shades of red. Related to the vast paint job options, GT7 expands the possibilities of custom liveries. In the past, Gran Turismo games have limited where sticker designs can go on cars, and how many stickers can be applied to a car. The example shown applies a design across a Ford F-150 side, including windows. Windows especially have been a customization issue in racing games as a whole, and Gran Turismo 7 applies multiple decals across the rear mirror, then adds a logo decal, just to prove a point. The impressive customization depth in GT7 assures that players that take the time to customize their car as they please, will guarantee that no other car can look like the one they've designed. Similarly, the freedom allowed can also lead to some stunning recreations of touring and GT cars of past and present. The over 30-minute long video showed a lot of gameplay footage from GT7, and director Kazunori Yamauchi stated that it is the most complete game in the Gran Turismo series. GT7 looks gorgeous, and many fans have commented on the stunning attention to detail. The video also discussed various other features coming to Gran Turismo 7, one of them being an extremely impressive photo mode. Photo mode in Gran Turismo 7 is known as Scapes, and fans can find this section towards the end of the State of Play showcase. Players will be able to place their favorite car in a wide variety of shots from all around the world. Then, users can fully customize every aspect of the scene and create breathtaking pictures that are mostly impossible in real life. Players can also take pictures from their races and similarly customize the shot using GT7's impressive toolset. While photo mode has been present in games for years now, Scapes in Gran Turismo 7 goes above and beyond. The images developed during the video do not seem all that difficult to create, which also highlights the user-friendly nature of Gran Turismo 7's UI. It will not be surprising to see fans spend tens of hours in this mode and try out its various aspects. Polyphony Digital added as many features as possible, and it will perhaps set a new standard for photo mode. Sony is known for giving developers as much time as possible, which is one of the biggest reasons for its games releasing relatively bug-free. With just a month left before its launch, Gran Turismo 7 should go gold within the next week or so. GT7 marks the latest entry in the acclaimed racing series, and has given gamers the chance to drive different cars against artificially intelligent racers, or battle their friends on challenging racetracks for the past quarter of a century. As an added bonus for knowledgeable players and car fanatics, the Museum mode offers a journey down the long road of varied automobile history. Museum mode is an informative and beautifully laid out feature that complements the history of each individual car manufacturer featured in-game. As well as automobile development and car production, the time periods are synced up with other notable moments from history as an accurate and informative timeline of progress. Players will therefore have the chance to explore the lasting legacies of over 400 cars available in GT7, ranging from the classic 90s racers that put Gran Turismo on the map all the way to modern supercar collections designed to break records. Polyphony Digital's decision to embrace driving history is a good step for attracting a wider range of interested players across different age ranges. Some new players may have a love for cars, but are novices when it comes to racing games, so the museum mode features add an extra layer of interactivity to anyone interested in learning about their favorite picks across the classy car collection. Adding to the nostalgic spirit, lots of the cars have interview clips sourced from the original designers and creators that give a first-hand recount of each specimen's unique history. In addition to the museum mode, other new features have been added, such as the Gran Turismo Café, a new game mode where car collections reward players. The latest car designers will actually come to speak to us about our car, which is very satisfying. Along the way, vast histories can be unearthed by devoted gamers and/or car buffs. Other staples of the series remain, albeit with a modern twist, such as the greatest variety of car customization in any Gran Turismo game to date, perfect for allowing gamers who like micromanaging their dream garage and aforementioned collections. Scrolling through the historic foundations that define each turning point for the automotive giants promises to be just one of the many exciting facets that will greet Gran Turismo 7 players. And the constant hints of famous racetracks that will be featured in Gran Turismo 7 ensures many racing game fans will be hyped for the release date. I love history and reading, and I cannot explain how glad I am when this information was revealed. Of all the franchises associated with PlayStation, few have achieved the fame and iconic status of the Gran Turismo series. Created by Kazunori Yamauchi, the series offers one of the most realistic driving experiences available in gaming, and it features an impressively large array of cars from throughout history. Since the first game was released in 1997 on the original PlayStation console, the series has amassed millions of fans, with Gran Turismo 5 on PS3 selling almost 12 million copies. The event revealed that Gran Turismo 7 features a great love of car culture. Although the game appeals to players from all walks of life, it is clear that those who have a passion for vehicles stand to gain much more. Kazunori Yamauchi is the head of Polyphony Digital, the studio behind the Gran Turismo series. He is an avid car fan, and this has been displayed in his work in the gaming industry. According to Yamauchi, his love of cars began when he was only 3 years old, and would look at all the cars on the road. By the time he was 4, he could name all the cars he saw. Through Gran Turismo, Yamauchi has become an icon within car culture. Yamauchi has an impressive collection of cars, and he has owned many beautiful vehicles, including the Nissan GT-R, the Porsche 911 GT3, and the Mercedes-Benz SL55 AMG. He is also no stranger to racing, and he has had a storied career in the racing industry. He came in first place in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring race in both 2011 and 2012. With GT7, it seems Polyphony Digital is aiming to release its most ambitious project yet. The game will have many features that will appeal to car enthusiasts. Within Gran Turismo 7's campaign mode is the Gran Turismo Café, where players will occasionally be able to hear from the designers of certain cars, allowing players to learn more about car culture and the history of cars. Players will also be able to learn about the history of cars through the museums present. There will be a museum for each car brand, and by exploring the museums, players will be able to find out more about the history of certain vehicles. The game will also contain the legendary car dealership, which will house iconic cars from throughout the history of the car industry. The dealership will let players see cars from over 100 years ago, allowing them to appreciate how far the industry has come. Players will be able to enjoy everything Gran Turismo 7 has to offer with top-notch visuals. The ray tracing implemented will help make vehicles and racetracks look more realistic, allowing players to better appreciate the beauty of all the cars. The game does not just focus its realism on the vehicles, however. It also strives to make the many racetracks look phenomenal, and the sky and clouds look as real as possible. Hence, the game will feature simulated weather, and a racetrack wet from rain will affect the way vehicles control. Gran Turismo games, historically, have been quite good at demonstrating the power of the PlayStation consoles they are released. Gran Turismo 7 continues this trend, and it proves that gaming is inching closer and closer to photorealism with each generation. Whether one is a die-hard car enthusiast or a gamer attracted to the game just because of the pretty graphics, Gran Turismo 7 is offering the perfect way for players to celebrate car culture or take their first steps into the world of roaring engines. It's a day one for me obviously. I have given an elaborate look on the GT7 showcase. This is one of the best showcases that PlayStation has ever done, and I recommend you to see the full state of play presentation and also check out the other Gran Turismo video released by PlayStation and other publications. It's fucking awesome. An intriguing message has landed on social media from the official Gran Turismo account and the account of Sony AI teasing what's referred to as a gaming flagship and breakthrough project in AI. The companies, both subsidiary arms of the wider Sony brand, jointly revealed that they're set to announce the project on Wednesday, February 9th. Along with the announcement, Sony AI posted a short, 25-second teaser video. The clip featured something similar to the light traces we've been seeing in the Gran Turismo Find Your Line video series, as well as short glimpses of double World Tour champions Igor Fraga and Takuma Miyazono, along with World Tour finalist Emily Jones. It ends looking in on Polyphony Digital's main studio in Tokyo, from where Kazunori Yamauchi has recently been presenting GT7 preview videos and the recent Q&A. While it's not totally clear at this point what the project will entail, the fact that some of the best Gran Turismo drivers in the world and Polyphony Digital itself form such a major part of the clip rather strongly suggests it's connected to the AI of Gran Turismo. I've previously mentioned Sony AI's research before here, with the company founded only in November 2019 using both machine learning and visual deep learning to train GT Sports AI to get faster and better at driving laps. In both cases PD supported Sony AI with consoles and software. It's unclear whether this project has anything to do with the upcoming Gran Turismo 7, however the timing falling between the half-hour state of play event and the game's March 4th launch is unlikely to be a coincidence. Indeed, the subject of AI was broached during the recent GT7 Q&A session, with Kazunori Yamauchi stating that PD had really worked on getting the AI to really be able to drive aggressively enough so that it comes to close to human lap times, and also to be able to handle more complex situations and take accurate and appropriate actions, while adding that it's something that could be worked on infinitely. We will find out on the 9th of February, and stay tuned, as I will break down here after the AI showcase. Can't wait to find what it is. GTA 6. Just a confirmation from Rockstar for a game we already know in development, and it took the internet by storm. With sales numbers still showing strong results, it looks like Grand Theft Auto V and Grand Theft Auto Online are here to stay for a good while longer. Especially with Rockstar Games and GTA V's Franklin voice actor teasing new content. However, that doesn't mean Rockstar isn't currently looking towards the future itself, as in its latest community update, it finally revealed what every Grand Theft Auto fan has been waiting for, the official announcement that Grand Theft Auto 6 is in active development. In the update, Rockstar didn't explicitly name the title of the next game, leaving it as the ambiguous next entry in the series. However, it did reveal that whatever Grand Theft Auto 6 is called is well underway in its development cycle. What that means for a time frame is unclear, but it does leave a ray of hope for fans who wish to move on from current titles as quickly as possible. The exciting news comes just days after a leaker claimed to show some of GTA VI's radio station songs. To many, a song leak may seem like next to nothing in the way of information, but in the past song leaks have been a huge deal in showing how far along GTA games are in development. In the case of GTA 5, its song list was leaked just 1 month before it was fully released. With new GTA Online content on the way, as well as the launch of Grand Theft Auto V enhanced and expanded in March 15th, GTA 6 coming out in a month is of course impossible, but maybe the game will only be a year or two out. Though a sooner-than-expected timetable for GTA 6 is certainly exciting for players, it also may be surprising to some. With GTA 5 and GTA Online topping sales charts continuously, many were worried that Rockstar would never have the incentive to make GTA 6. Perhaps, regardless of the numbers, Rockstar is as ready as its player base is to move on to greener pastures, or perhaps Rockstar will continue to support GTA Online even after GTA 6 launches. Whatever the case may be, players can still be excited that the next title in the series is not only confirmed, but is also some ways along in its development cycle. If GTA 6 release date speculations hold any weight, we may have the next title in our hands much sooner than originally expected, and I predict the release of GTA 6 on Q1 2024, and it would be a PS5 exclusive. Speaking of PlayStation Plus subscribers have been waiting quite some time now for the promised release of Grand Theft Auto Online on the service. Grand Theft Auto Online, which is traditionally bundled with Grand Theft Auto V as a premium purchase, was first confirmed way back in June 2020. The PS5 release of Grand Theft Auto Online has since been delayed multiple times, but is finally nearing its final release date. With that in mind, Rockstar is now sharing some specific information about Grand Theft Auto Online's availability for PlayStation Plus subscribers. In a perfect world, Grand Theft Auto Online would be permanently available to all PlayStation Plus subscribers following its launch on PS5. That would certainly be cost prohibitive for PlayStation though. Instead, PlayStation will be making Grand Theft Auto Online available to acquire for a generous 3 full months. That means PlayStation Plus subscribers will be able to download Grand Theft Auto Online for 3 months following its release, unlocking it permanently so long as the PS5 user maintains their PlayStation Plus subscription. 3 months is obviously more than enough time for PlayStation Plus subscribers to ensure that they've claimed a copy of Grand Theft Auto Online before the redemption period expires. It's also more than enough time for PS5 owners, who are not currently subscribed to PlayStation Plus, to decide whether to do so. To be clear, the standalone version of Grand Theft Auto Online will also be available separately on both PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. A price point for the standalone version of Grand Theft Auto V's multiplayer mode hasn't been announced yet. This port of GTA 5 needs to have DualSense support and 3D audio, or it's just a mere cash grab. It is, but at least give me that next-gen feeling. But for GTA 6 I'm pumped for that one to blow my minds whenever we get a gameplay trailer. And that's all for the video guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.